Welcome to United We Spay, the show dedicated to promoting affordable spay-neuter services nationwide. Each episode delves into the heart of the movement, sharing inspiring stories and driving positive change. Our goal is to raise awareness, educate, and empower, addressing overpopulation's root causes to ensure every animal has a chance for a better life. Hosted by Stacy LeBaron and the United Spay Alliance team, we're on a mission to change lives. Fed up with the fixation on symptoms in the animal welfare conversation, it's time to change the narrative. Join us on United We Spay, where we make a difference by spreading knowledge and building a compassionate world for animals. Let's put prevention first and spotlight spay-neuter in the animal welfare space.
You're listening to United We Spay, a podcast from United Spay Alliance. United Spay Alliance works to promote accessible, affordable, and timely spay-neuter services. Because an ounce of prevention today can prevent untold suffering tomorrow. Spay-neuter, it's public health for pets. I am Stacy LeBaron, United Spay Alliance board member and host of the show. And today on United We Spay, we are talking to Cheri Storms. Cheri is the executive director of Pet Friendly Services of Indiana. She joined the organization in 2005 and has worked in different capacities to increase spay-neuter surgeries. Under her leadership, Pet Friendly Services has grown from a central Indiana-based program to a statewide program, funding thousands of surgeries each year. Cheri also serves on the board of directors of the United Spay Alliance, where she chairs the Vet Shortage Task Force, comprised of industry experts in need of additional veterinary capacity. Cheri holds an undergraduate degree from Indiana University Bloomington and a master's degree in public and environmental affairs from Indiana University, Indianapolis. Cheri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stacy. It's nice to be here.
So before we jump into everything going on at the Vet Shortage Task Force, how'd you get to be so passionate about spaying and neutering animals?
I think just growing up and knowing that animals were in shelters and not making their way out successfully, the key is to stop overpopulation, and spay and neuter is the only way to do that. It's humane, it's cost effective. People want to get their pets fixed. It's the answer to overpopulation.
You just said people want to get their pets fixed, but isn't affordability an issue?
Oh, it sure is. Post-pandemic, prices have gone through the roof. The vet shortage is crippling. People are waiting months to get in many instances, and they don't know how to keep their pets separated. They don't know how quickly a litter will arrive. I mean, it's just 63, 64 days for a litter of puppies or a litter of kittens to arrive. And cats start reproducing at 4 or 5 months of age, and people don't know that. And it's really important that we get the word out. The Feline Fix by 5 program of the United Spay Alliance, it's wonderful. It helps get the word out about when to spay and neuter.
Before the pandemic, what was the spay-neuter environment like? Did we not have a vet shortage back then? It seems so strange that we seem to be doing okay for a while there, and then now all of a sudden we're sliding backwards, it feels like, at least.
I think people in animal welfare felt the impact of the vet shortage before the pandemic. It was brewing, but after 2020, it was just a full boil. I mean, we can really feel the impact. We see low-cost spay-neuter clinics, the nonprofit clinics that do high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter. They are short veterinarians. We see veterinarians being paid really high bonuses to start with corporate entities. It makes it very difficult to get enough vets doing spay-neuter surgeries. And that's what we really need, is to increase spay-neuter capacity so that we can get people into vet offices and have affordable spay-neuter.
Is it true that many veterinary students will graduate with their degrees, but not really have done many spay-neuter procedures on cats or dogs?
Yes, through my work with the Vet Shortage Task Force, I have learned so much. I'm not a veterinarian, but I've learned so much about vet schools. And the students that graduate don't have as many clinical skills as we would imagine they would have, because they just don't have those opportunities. And so we're seeing low-cost clinics and nonprofit clinics training students on how to do spay neuters. And even the United Spay Alliance has started wet labs, which is vets training vets in high quality, high volume spay neuter procedures. And so far, the United Spay Alliance has hosted 10 wet labs in 5 states and has trained 42 veterinarians and has big plans for 2025.
Oh, I love the wet lab program. We talk about this often at the Vet Shortage Task Force. But when we initially started, I think little did you know when we asked you to head up this task force what it was going to entail. As someone who has seen the notes from many of these meetings, they are pages and pages long on a wide range of different topics and, several subgroups and sub-projects. So how did the Vet Shortage Task Force begin at the United Spay Alliance, and where has it evolved to now?
So Pet Friendly Services of Indiana, we are a spay neuter program, and the United Spay Alliance as well. So when we were talking about the vet shortage and the need for spay neuter, we saw a big collision where, we couldn't get our work done because we didn't have enough veterinarians. So we thought we could simply tell the vet schools and the AVMA that, hey, there's this shortage, everyone's feeling the pinch, and that they would correct the situation. But that's not how it's happened. And it is so complex to increase the number of graduating veterinarians, and we're not able to move the needle on that. But what we are able to do is to engage practicing veterinarians and vet students to get them to learn more about high quality, high volume spay and neuter, and to get them engaged. And so that's what we're working to do, is to utilize what we have. And it's been wonderful. I know that the wet labs have gotten rave reviews from the veterinarians who have taken the training, and they get continuing education credits. And so it's a win-win for us and for them.
But at these task force meetings, we also talk about things like veterinarians that are outside of the United States and they want to come into the country. That seems like it's almost an impossibility to me.
Yes, from what I've learned, they take a different test if they come from a non-accredited school versus an accredited school outside the U.S., and that test is very difficult, and that there isn't a way to really learn about what's going to be on the test so they can prepare themselves. So that is the difficult situation.
Pet Friendly Services of Indiana, you work with providing vouchers or grant money to quite a few organizations within the state. If I'm a rescue and I don't have access to a veterinarian or to spay neuter services, what are my options?
Well, gee, that's a great question. A few years ago at our Indiana Animal Welfare Conference, we had a session about how to start a transport program from your community to a high volume, high quality spay neuter clinic. We still have groups that transport, but getting those appointments has been more difficult. The demand for the appointments is through the roof. And then if a vet takes a different job or a vet is out for maternity leave, then it makes it more difficult because the vet capacity diminishes. So they really have to pack up animals and travel to find the vet. This brings me to the point of vet deserts. So we're seeing communities, whole counties that don't have a vet. And so those counties, those people just kind of give up and they learn to live with overpopulation. We do have a couple of mobile units in Indiana. And so it's really wonderful to be able to have mobile units. They only fix cats. People line up for an hour to check in to get their cats fixed. They know it's the right thing to do. They know that especially cats are impossible to live with if you don't spay and neuter. And they really want the services. So mobile units are a way to help address the vet shortage in those vet deserts.
You work with a veterinarian in Indiana too, who does like these events that are incredibly huge. Folks will say to me, oh, well, we don't have this, or I can't do this, or, it has to look this way. But it seems to me we can create spay neuter opportunities in a variety of different ways, either through compensating veterinarians, getting volunteer veterinarians, doing these high quality, high volume spay neuter models that have more affordable pricing. You talked about mobile, but touch base a little bit on these sort of mega spay neuter events Public Vet does.
Yeah, they're a mobile unit. And so they go to counties all across the state and they fix an average of 100 cats per day. And this is just a wonderful service. They charge $100 per cat. Most people can pay the entire amount. We give a budget to Public Vet in case there are people who cannot afford the full amount. And then they can discount their services to ensure that everybody in the community can afford to spay and neuter their cats. And it's just really wonderful. When we roll into a small community, especially, it's so impactful. If 50 cats are female out of 100, that's 50 cats that won't have litters going to shelters or to community cat programs. In a small shelter, that is a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the model, Public Vet, of looking at the community and seeing what the needs of the community are and creating a business model that helps to really impact change is just wonderful. And I think something that we love to share at the United Spay Alliance. I mean, what we're about is taking examples of what folks are doing all around the country and even around the world. We've had presentations from Panama and Mexico and various other places to learn what folks are doing to be able to build our spay-neuter capacity. I do think we still have some substantial challenges, but we are seeing different models and we're trying to bring those forward. Looking ahead for veterinarians, private practice, nonprofits, organizations like yours, what are our greatest obstacles going forward?
Well, it's cost and it's accessibility for spay-neuter. A lot of the large grant funders are not funding spay-neuter, and so it makes it really difficult for the shelters and the rescue groups to get their hands on much-needed money. Pet Friendly Services of Indiana, we're funded by the Pet Friendly license plate, and it's very popular in Indiana. It's a great design, and we love to talk about the work that we do and the success that we have so that people are proud to drive with the Pet Friendly license plate. But a lot of states don't have a statewide financial assistance program, so it makes it really challenging, cost and accessibility.
Does Pet Friendly Services of Indiana have a voucher program, or are you primarily a granting organization?
We're a voucher program, and we do that because we want to know that every dollar that leaves our bank account comes back as the finished surgery. So the vets in our network invoice us for the surgeries, and then we pay them, and we know that every nickel is accounted for. Everything's a surgery.
I have heard people say that voucher programs aren't really a great model because you'll issue the vouchers, but they're never used. What would you say to that?
Well, we don't have that problem. I think that's more of an adoption problem. When you adopt out an animal with a voucher, people don't understand the value and the benefit of spay-neuter. These are people in our program that actively seek us out for spay-neuter surgeries. So we don't have the problem of people not using their vouchers.
The voucher program that I'm familiar with in Massachusetts has a 3 to 4 month waiting list to be able to issue vouchers. Is that a common occurrence amongst voucher programs around the country?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you pay for a spay-neuter, it's money going out the door, and there's not revenue coming back in. So when you adopt an animal out, you could probably build in the spay-neuter fee in some instances to the new adopters to help cover your costs. But with the voucher program, it's financially, it's difficult. So we do have limited numbers of vouchers that we give out every year and every week. So we have annually, we do 10 for rescue groups and shelters. They get 10 free surgeries. And for community cat programs, they get 15 free surgeries. And then we've got a program for the general public, and it's limited. It's generally between 50 and 100 per week. And then Public Vet, as we talked about earlier, they fix 100 cats per clinic, and most of those clinics sell out.
Yeah, if you're taking care of a mom cat and an unneutered male cat who's probably the father cat and 4 kittens, you've got 6 right there. You add all those cats up, it's really very expensive. And it's important to get that last cat. I mean, it's not particularly helpful to say, I have 6 cats and I'm only going to be able to get 3 of them spayed or neutered. So it's really important, I think, to focus on getting, a whole household sterilized. But that's an expensive proposition for sure.
Correct. And as I mentioned in the example that we've been talking about here today, public vet charges $100 per cat. Some people ask for discounts, other people don't. And then some people do need free surgeries. There's always the story of the little old lady that lives on a dead-end street, and that's the favorite place for the community to dump their cats. There are times when surgeries should be free, and there are times when people can pay the full amount and everything in between.
Circling back to the vet shortage task force and sort of the evolving profession of veterinary medicine. So we have our veterinarians, we have our veterinary technicians that are either certified or not certified. We have veterinary assistants, and we are also looking at maybe a mid-level type practitioner between the certified veterinary technician and the veterinarian, or having that certified veterinary technician be that mid-level practitioner and be able to have the skills enabled to be able to do more procedures than what they're able to do now. There are some states where it's legal for a veterinary technician to neuter a cat. It's in their statute or whatever. So wouldn't it be great to have our technicians, trained technicians, or a mid-level practitioner that's also trained to be able to do some of these procedures that happen over and over and over again, and let our veterinarians do more of the unique diagnostic work that serves their time better?
Yeah, Colorado just recently passed a bill to allow a mid-level practitioner. So we don't know what that is going to entail or include, but I think that the vet shortage is having the impact on states where states are taking it into their own hands. Like, we have a shortage, so now we're going to look to our mid-level folks to sharpen their skill set and be able to help more. So that's the example in Colorado. And you mentioned the foreign graduates earlier, and New Hampshire just passed a law to allow foreign graduates to work in New Hampshire to get the skills that they need to pass their tests. So we're seeing states come up with creative solutions, and I think it's really going to be interesting to follow to see how this impacts the vet shortage.
It will be. It'll be very interesting. And, another thing that we have for challenges is the veterinary community is worried about their work-life balance. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of anxiety in there. There's a desire to work 4 10-hour days. You come in at 8, you leave at 6, and the door closes, because I think traditionally there's been a thought that you're sort of always on the clock, or you're always working, or you're always on call, or something like that. And now there's a movement really to try and protect yourselves. And then there's compensation. I think veterinary students have higher debt than even medical students have in some cases. And so the debt payments on their school is really burdensome. And so now the salaries are having to go up to sort of meet that level to help them to be able to pay off some of that school debt that they have. It's just evolving. I think that the career desires are evolving, and maybe it's just this is driven by the fact that there is much higher demand than there is supply. So, those that are out there looking for jobs can call their shots a little bit more than maybe what they had in the past. But I definitely get the sense that the veterinary community is looking for some ways to protect themselves. And mental health is a big issue in the veterinary space too. I don't know if you run into that in Indiana at all.
Well, I think that it's really interesting that there are so many stakeholders in this. So we think about pet owners, we think about spay-neuter programs. We're impacted by the vet shortage, but the veterinarians themselves are impacted. They are asked to work longer, harder days. They're faced with clients that are sad, who are scared, who need services, who show up at the last minute without an appointment. And these vets, they want to go home. And rightly so. We're seeing vets that retire and they're unable to sell their practice. So they have to sell the building separately and the equipment. This is their nest egg for retirement, and they're unable to sell it because there aren't veterinarians to buy it. And then going back to the vet desert, if that happens in an area where that's the only vet in a community and that vet closes, there's no one to take it over. So it makes it incredibly difficult for a variety of stakeholders. And the shelters are stakeholders in this too. And so when they can't get spay neuter done and animals adopted out, then it makes it a scary place for them and for the animals. Then the cities and towns and counties that fund the shelters have to pay more because now these shelters are overrun. And one of the things that people don't really talk about is that when animals are spayed and neutered, that's generally the time they get their first rabies vaccination. And so animal welfare across the United States is very quietly doing public health work. And so there are a lot of stakeholders that need to be aware of the vet shortage and what it means to them.
Yeah, it's important. It's a multi-layered situation considering so many of our citizens own cats and dogs, and it plays an incredible role in all of our lives. And so if we're missing out on these services, then our pets aren't feeling well, they're not doing well, and that just impacts us. I also am involved with a food pantry system. And, when pet food is left out of the human food pantries, folks are going to feed the human food to the pets before they feed themselves. And it's really interwoven within our social services, for sure. Looking forward, how do you see things changing in this climate over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball that could say where this road is going to lead, but we talked about Colorado and their new bill. We talked about New Hampshire and their new law. I think states are going to pave the way to change the veterinary shortage, and possibly the AVMA and the powers that be will follow suit. For some reason, the AVMA continues to say that we don't have a vet shortage. We can't understand that because we see it. United Spay Alliance has a lot of information about the vet shortage articles on their website. In fact, we quit gathering information because it's just all you have to do is Google vet shortage and you will find any article. It's just so common sense to know that there's a vet shortage.
I'm going to turn the tables a little bit and talk a bit about Feline Fix by 5. You work with a lot of partnering veterinary organizations across the state. Do you find many of them are aware of and supportive of Feline Fix by 5?
Yeah, we sure do. We did a survey not too long ago, and vets in Indiana generally spay and neuter between 4 and 6 months. So 5 is just perfect. We talked about cats, and we've all seen the picture of the cat pyramid where one cat has a bazillion cats and they're going to take over the world. But that's not the way it works. It's generally a cat that has an oops litter and then maybe a second or third before she is fixed. Meanwhile, the kittens become that cat and it continues on and on. So I think that Bob Barker was wonderful on The Price is Right. He said every day to spay and neuter your pets. And so now we need to include when. So Fix by 5 is really key to getting people to know that their pet is going to reproduce very quickly, that there's a vet shortage, so they need to call and get that appointment made.
Yeah, I think that's great. And United Spay Alliance, the website, we have a whole listing of Feline Fix by 5 veterinarians that folks can refer to right directly in our locator on the website. Cheri, if folks are interested in finding out more about the work that you're doing in Indiana, how would they do that?
On our website, which is petfriendlyservices.org.
And is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I'd like to let them know that financial assistance program like ours, voucher programs, they are wonderful. They are underfunded. If you have one in your community, please get to know more about their work and support them. It's really important to spay and neuter. Everybody wants spay and neuter. Shelters want it, rescues want it, people want it. So support your financial assistance programs.
Thank you so much, Cheri, and thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to share and subscribe. We release a new episode every month, digging into important conversations surrounding spay-neuter throughout the U.S. and around the world. Find more resources for spay-neuter and learn more about our work at unitedspayalliance.org. Or get in touch with us anytime by emailing info@unitedspayalliance.org. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.